Hi YouTube, Abby here. In today's video, we'll be doing a tier list for the new Overwatch season, but really fast disclaimer, I'm on a bit of a scuffed setup right now, so if you hear any background noises or something like that, I'm deeply sorry about it. For those of you that have been keeping up with the Abby lore on my Twitter and the community posts, I've been running into some problems with my PC. I think I have figured it out by now, but I wanted to quickly get this video out. The tier list stuff is really easy to do because I'm just kind of doing it like a podcast style and discussing the picks. So I really wanted to get this out for you guys, and then I promise, Sombra video is 100% tomorrow. I have the script, I've got the talking points I need. I just need a little bit more time. Super sorry for the wait on the videos. With that being said, let's talk about the current tier list. So I got the rankings over here. I got S, A, B, C, and D, and then terrible, need a lot of help. So S is meta, A is good, B is mid, C is niche good, D is niche bad, and then terrible, need a lot of help. So before we get into this, I've been doing a lot of research. I really did give this season some time to play out, and I'm not going to lie, this season is probably the most stressful one when it comes down to making a tier list, because arguably you could make a pretty decent argument that this season is kind of just map dependent meta, with there being a little bit more focus on brawl slash rush comps, because Juno is still very strong. It's crazy, like Blizzard nerfing the wrong parts of her kit and not understanding what makes her so strong. But I digress. We'll talk about Juno once we get to her. The one thing I do want everybody to keep in mind is when I'm making this tier list, I've put in a decent amount of hours scrimming with Masters Plus players. I've been putting a lot of time in rank this season. Then on the side, I've been playing some quick play with, my casuals and all that type of stuff. And I've been trying to understand both sides of the argument. So I'm going to do my level best to keep this tier list as objective as possible. And I don't think I'm going to make it super high elo focused, but we will basically go to like Diamond Masters area, like in terms of like the leniency of the character picks, because I think that's the region everybody like in metal ranks is trying to get to. So I'm just gonna kind of keep that in mind. Now with that being said, let's get started with the tier list. So sorry for the wait. Number one is Bastion. So Bastion in this season is in a bit of a weird spot. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's good. I don't think he's terrible, needs a lot of help. But I do think that Bastion is niche and bad. And sadly, a character like Bastion is just one of those low elo pub stompers that just gets destroyed when you start learning the game, because you understand how to just kite him, wait out his abilities, and then run him down. So Bastion, niche, bad. I don't think you need to spend that much time on him. He's in a good spot. Like in the ranks where he's meant to work in, he's pretty good. But in the ranks where he's supposed to drop off, he does. And that's okay. We have to kind of consider that Overwatch is a game that really needs to balance around skill to reward value ratios. Like we cannot bring Overwatch in a state in the world where every character can be viable. That's just impossible. You'll create more problems than not, right? Like the current state of tank, like to Blizzard themselves, tank right now is actually balanced, but to the rest of us, it's the most overwhelming force in the game's history. But we'll talk about tank in a separate video. So Cassidy's actually pretty mid. Like he's a bit of a tough one because he's really good in brawl based comps. In rush comps, you can kind of swap him out for some other characters, and then he becomes kind of mid because he struggles to kind of set the pacing of the game. But if you're playing like the more short and mid-range map, Cass is actually very good. I might just put him in A tier. I think he's actually not that bad this season. People just underestimate him because there's just much better picks. But you can certainly play Cass in a lot of places. I wouldn't say he's mid at all. Very, very good character. D.Va is still S tier. So my problem with the tanks right now, and this includes D.Va, is we didn't actually address the oppressiveness of some of these tank characters. Instead, new tanks became oppressive. And I feel like that's kind of the problem with the game right now, is tank still, in a weird way, is being power crept. And instead of us dealing with D.Va, we created a new problem with Orisa, and we'll come to her in a little bit. So D.Va, I think, is still pretty damn good, but now she actually has contention. Although I don't know if I want to say that she's meta. She has lost a little bit of power because of how again, Orisa is a big factor of that, how Orisa is able to draw out fights a little bit longer, at least in my experience. Again, subjective to my experience from what I've seen, what I've felt. So I don't know, D.Va might be A tier, but then in some cases she's S tier, so she's a little bit in between. But I will drop her in the A tier. She's good, not bad. But again, if you understand how to play D.Va, you can play her into almost like 90% of the situations. It's completely pilot related and not mecha related. See what I did there? Anyways, moving on, Genji. Okay, now this is going to be a surprise, and this is coming from the biggest like Genji crier out there, okay? I unironically think Genji's actually mid or good. He's actually really not that bad, and this is something we have to understand. Like in my previous video where I covered the Shimadas, there was a lot of people saying like a lot of things where they were like, no, the characters are good and this and that. What you don't understand is if a character is only good because the world around them is now enabling them, that still means the character is objectively bad. It's just everything that can work in their favor, that can feed them into becoming a good pick, is now a thing. And that's exactly where Genji is right now. Is the character individually in a good spot? That's kind of debatable. I think he's okay. He's not good. He's not bad. He's like mid. It could be better, especially for the amount of effort that goes into the hero. But the current game state is actually very good for him. So for the first time, in my opinion, I actually think he's a good pick. He's a really good pick when you're running the Russian Brawl comps. It's weird because Genji has kind of evolved more into fitting really well in Brawl and Rush comps nowadays than dive comps, but that's also like, I know there's arguments by certain other creators that say that, well, the problem with Genji is he has bad matchups against other dive characters. The reason why he has bad matchups isn't because he cannot keep up the pace with those dive characters. It's his damage is so damn pathetic that you can kite and draw out the duel with him long enough to where he can't keep up with you. If he was actually able to have some of his combos back, he could easily fit into dive comps again. And again, that just never gets discussed because nobody in the community, other than me and maybe like one other content creator, gives half a shit about this character as much as we used to. It's just really sad. But anyways, meta actually favors Genji pretty good now. So yeah, he has my endorsement. He's an A tier pick. Really good with Brawl and Rush. He, like, the worst comp to play him against is like Poke, because Poke, like, Genji just has a really, really hard time against Poke right now. Again, in my experience, you can certainly play him, but it's going to be like the worst situation to play him in. You can still make him work in dive, so he's actually pretty decent right now. He does suck against the meta backline, like there's no denying it. He needs a lot of help, and again, just as much as he sucks against the current meta backline, he's also really good with the current meta backline, which is a lot of Juno-based comps, right? So that's the interesting spot that he's in, and that's why he's in the A tier. Now, that does not mean the character needs nerfs. This is because the world around him is enabling him to be good. Again, I feel like that just never gets understood. Hanzo is niche. And I don't want to say he's bad, because he's not bad, but he's not mid or good either. He's niche good. He has a very, very, very tight niche on where you can play him. And then if that niche does not work, you have to get off the hero. It's as simple as that. You can play him in some poke comps. You can play him in really tightly fitted maps. He's a very good in the Flashpoint. Not Flashpoint. The 5 CP. I don't know. I always forget that game mode's name. You can play him in the 5 CP game mode. He's really not that bad in those scenarios because like most of the maps are just a straight line. So even if you're just like turning your brain off looking in a straight line and spamming shots, you will get picks. So you can definitely play him there. You could unironically fit him into Brawl comps, but don't play him in Rush comps. There's a big difference between what Brawl and Rush is. But if I had to dumb it down, is Rush is a variation of Brawl that utilizes Lucio, and I guess now you could argue Juno's speed boost. And Brawl is usually when you're taking a slower paced game. So Hanzo likes it when you can play slower paced games, and that's kind of what Brawl and most of the time like Poke try to do, is they try to draw out the games so you can like rely more on just like fighting it out. And if tanks, usually the tanks are the biggest issue on this one, if tanks are tending to just fight it out and you as a DPS as Hanzo is not getting attention, that's a great thing. That means you can just kind of do whatever the F you want. Okay, so that's very good for Hanzo. Now, here we go. Junkrat. Okay. I know I have a lot of people in the Junkrat community, and I've seen where a lot of them have been ranking him. Okay, and I think you guys have your valid reasonings and arguments. But in my opinion, I actually think Junkrat is very good. I don't think he's mid, bad, niche, anything like that. I think the hero is actually very, very strong. Okay, we had a lot of Junkrat in scrims. We had a lot of Junkrat in ranked. We had a lot of Junkrat. He's very good, but against certain heroes, he immediately, like, he can be very good. He can almost, you can like actually do so much with this character. If you understand the skill ceiling of this character, you can do so much on him. But the problem with Junkrat is while he can roll the games, he's kind of like Genji. You need your team comp to play around you. So let's for Junkrat's sake, I'll say it like this. If your team comp is kind of in a situation where it favors you, like let's say you have like, okay, I have this tank, I have this support and this character, and I can utilize them like this, they're enabling me like this, they're looking out for me, I can hard take this angle, whatever, you can do so much on Junkrat, okay? You can do so much on Junkrat. I would give specific examples, but usually the tier list videos are very long, so I don't want to spend too much time just giving a basic example over here. He's very, 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 very good on the maps where he needs to be good. And then on maps where he's okay, he's, again, okay. But I will say this, Junkrat's biggest problem is he's a very... So this is how I would summarize it. Junkrat's a really good character when it comes to team fights. Junkrat's like almost like one of the worst duelists in the game unless the other person is completely stupid, right? Because technically almost every character in the game can have a good matchup into Junkrat in a dueling based scenario if they understand how to play around Junkrat. And if they don't, then Junkrat just does the usual combo and wins against them anyway, right? The 225 HP pools also makes Junkrat's life much easier against a lot of the characters that could pressure him before. However, his biggest problem is, again, he still easily loses and gets dominated by certain character picks, whether it's on the tank role side or whether it's on the DPS or even support role side. So Junkrat is good, but if the enemy has started to pick like things that is good against you, of course this applies to any character, then I would say like maybe Junkrat's like not in the niche region, but I would say he's actually pretty mid. Like he's so good on the new game mode. Like again, I keep forgetting, but let's just call it 5 CP. So man, playing 5 CP Junkrat, oh my god, if you just get that spam going, like that's the thing about Junkrat is at the end of the day, his like you have to think about his accessibility to where his pressure can come from. And sometimes all you just need to do is sit in a choke, spam, and you get infinite value to do whatever you want. And sadly, sometimes that's also his best playstyle. And a lot of the new game modes, like especially 5 CP, enable that playstyle to be really viable, especially with how clunked and tight the maps are. So Junkrat, maybe not A tier pick, but okay, I would say it bounces between A and B tier depending on the comp. I think that's the fairest that can be against him. Riptire is Riptire. It just, you know, if people shoot it, they shoot it. What can you do? If you get it in and you can slide it in, you know, it is what it is. But Junkrat is in a very, very healthy spot. I will say that I've seen a lot of complaints on the lower elo side because, again, like Junkrat's very popular in gold and silver and shit like that. And I don't know, I feel like maybe off of those complaints, Blizzard might actually nerf him. I don't think he deserves to be nerfed. I think he's actually in a very good spot and he's one of the very few viable projectile DPS hero choices. And he's actually very fun to play. So I don't know, I like Junkrat a lot myself. I've been learning him a lot. So I like where Junk is. I really love playing him. Don't gut him, please. I have this weird sense in the air that Junk is next after the Sombra thing. Anyways, Lucio. Lucio's very good. Do I seriously need to explain why Lucio is good? I think everybody has seen and felt his power, and the buffs that they gave him were actually very good. So Lucio, thumbs up. Don't need to spend that much time on him. Very good support. You can play him pretty much into anything versus everything. Very few things can be done against him. Unironically, Sombra was actually one of the few characters that could make Lucio feel pressured and swap. But with how shit Sombra is now, there's no better way of saying it. Lucio's kinda gone. Mei is unironically actually very good. So because I guess you could argue the name of the game is mostly Brawl and Rush, Mei fits into a lot of these compositions really well. She has really good survivability by herself, the way to zone off targets, and man, she's just so much potential. Like Mei is fully dependent on the player. If you have the game sense, if you understand, this is where I wall, this is where I create an opportunity for my tank, this is how I peel for my supports, Mei can do everything. She's literally another tank with the way that she can control the game, space the things out. Like your ultimate is probably the weakest part of your kit, but you are never using that ultimate to freeze people. You use it to create opportunities by zoning people, then using your wall to create a scenario where your tank can walk in for free. That's what I do on Mei, and honestly, it's really effective. Mei is a very good character right now. So if you're sleeping on Mei, check her out. She's actually very good, and very few things sometimes can deal with her, and she's still, man, she's got that big projectile on her icicle. So check Mei out if you can. She's actually very good right now. And I don't know, I feel like maybe Blizzard might actually approach Mei in the near future. She's very, very popular in Masters Plus. She's very popular in GM. She's like if you want a free win, it's pretty much just lock Mei with a Rush/Brawl comp and just win from there. It's very few things a lot of the tanks can do once Mei locks you in. So again, Mei, for me, is an A tier. At worst case, she's B tier like Junkrat. So, but I will leave her in A tier. I think in the current state of the game, she's actually very, very good. Mercy. Now, Mercy is not niche good. Mercy is not niche bad. Mercy is terrible and needs a lot of help. I actually really like Mercy. I think she's by far one of the least problematic supports from her entire kit that isn't damage boost. Damage boost's problem is it messes with breakpoints. I would really like it if perhaps we could move away from her primary right click being damage boost and being something else. I would like it if we could tie damage boost to just the ultimate, maybe even buff up the damage boost so her ultimate actually feels like it's something like really that impactful and has a big impact on the fight, so it can create some big high plays and moments. But for her neutral gameplay, Mercy needs something else because they don't want to approach her flight, because the low elo players complain about that, and that's all that they balance for. Seriously, guys, we have to accept the reality. They are balancing this game for gold and silver players. What can you do? It is what it is, right? So in my opinion, the best way to approach Mercy is to either address res or damage boost. To the balance team, they've already said that res is too much of an iconic ability that they don't know how or what they would do to replace it. However, for her right click, I think there's definitely a world case and scenario that perhaps you could change her right click into something a little bit more exciting, or even do something with her pistol. Maybe if you swap into her Caduceus pistol, she would gain 1 or 2 new abilities to use. Like, I believe her Caduceus pistol, or actually I don't know what it's called, the blast or whatever. Like, when you swap to it, maybe the right click does something a little bit different. Maybe like just something so the character feels like there's a bit more tender love and care being given to her, because right now I would actually argue by far one of the most neglected characters over the past few seasons really has been Mercy, outside of like characters that we are complaining about actively, Genji, Hanzo, Sombra now as of recent, like Blizzard has completely gutted her. I feel like Mercy is just in such a really bad spot, like it's so difficult for her, and it's not fair. I think every character should at least be in a spot where, like it's not like Mercy is super easy to play. Like, she does require a lot of skill in her movement. She does, like, of course, the easiest part of her kit is the point-and-click healing, but it is single target. It's not any broken AoE healing that she can do on base, like, without ultimate. That's something that Brig and Bap can do, and those characters are more problematic. So, I don't know, like, Mercy I've talked about in depth before. I think I might need to do a second video on her. She's definitely in a terrible spot. She needs a lot of help. She's outpaced and outclassed by almost every other support in the game right now. So please, Blizzard, if there's ever any one of you watching this video or listening to this in the background, please help Mercy. She's in a really, really weird spot right now. However, usually her partner in crime in disguise, Pharah, is not that bad or in a weird spot. I would say Pharah is actually in a niche or mid spot. Pharah definitely falls off if it's more poke heavy comp that you're running into, but against Brawl and Dive comps, you can actually play Pharah really well. She's also fits in really well with poke, Brawl, Rush type of Brawl, Rush, and Dive type of comps, but definitely her weakest point is if the enemy has built a poke comp. Once those hit scans get line of sight on you, it can sometimes feel really difficult to play Pharah, but Pharah is kind of the same like Junkrat, where both of them can really thrive, or they just both feel really awkward. So that's why both of them, I'm gonna just put them in mid personally. Pharah sometimes can just feel like a more accurate like ground Junkrat with her new playstyle, and that's why I like both of them. Like, I like what both of them have to offer right now. They have their moments where they can completely take over and carry games, and they also have their moments where they just fall off, but I think that is okay. I think where Junkrat, Pharah are as characters, maybe that isn't necessarily a bad thing. That, hey, these characters are good against certain comps, these characters are bad against certain comps. I think that's okay, because then you can entice people to actually learn the game and learn how to counter them, rather than perhaps gut these characters so that they're not being played. And that should never be the aim of balance, that, oh, this character is strong, maybe we should gut it. No, if a character is strong, and it depends, is it like healthy level of strong, or is it an unhealthy level of strong? If it's a healthy level of strong and the character is earning their stripes, let's say, then we should definitely encourage the community to learn how to get better. In Pharah's case, it's really not that hard to pick up hit scan and, practice your aim, find a good sensitivity, and deal with her. In Junkrat's case, I mean, guys, come on, Junkrat has poor matchups against like 80% of the roster. It shouldn't be that hard to counter him. There's like 1 every 10 games where you'll run into a really good Junkrat player that understands how to use those projectiles well. So please, Junkrat's really not that hard. And get Blizzard, I'm begging, do not gut Junkrat. Do not gut Junkrat. I know the low elo players are complaining. I have seen the forums, Blizzard, but do not gut Junkrat. It is not his fault. It is a skill issue. Moving on, we have Reaper. Reaper is A tier easily. I like where Reaper is. He's very good, fits into a lot of comps, and the only suggestion that I stated was to tighten his spread, and voila, he's actually in a very good spot. If only they could do that for the other characters that I'm giving some suggestions for. Reaper's in a very good spot. He's a very honest hero. He doesn't do any bullshit. There's like a million ways to counterplay him. However, if there's only one thing that he needs a nerf, is bring his HP down to 275. That's it, Blizzard. You do not have to do anything else. I think 300 HP sometimes for certain breakpoints can be a little bit overwhelming. Now, as a support, man, like a 300 damage hero coming at you is pretty damn threatening. It is literally a mini tank with some self-heal attached to him. So, I don't know. The only nerf I'd probably give him is, again, like I said, the 275 HP. Otherwise, I'm actually very happy where Reaper is. I like honest characters like Reaper and Genji. I'm happy when they're being played over some other bullshit. So, this is completely fine by me. Reinhardt. Okay, Reinhardt is actually very damn strong. I am done pretending that Rein isn't good. Yes, there are those Reinhardt one-tricks that play him against the worst possible maps, in the worst possible scenarios. against the worst possible team comps and shit like that. However, the hero by himself is actually not that bad. And if you are that Reinhardt one trick that spams the glory voice line, his animated short voice lines and shit like that, and you like soft roleplay the character, and you think the whole world is against you, for the love of God, bro, please grow up. The character is really not that bad. It is you. It is a skill issue. Ryan is actually very good right now. There's very few things that he struggles up against. And yeah, like he's an A tier pick. I think a lot of the tanks are actually in the A tier. Very few tanks are anything below A tier right now because of all the tank changes that they've given them. Ryan is very strong with the current iteration of armor. The barrier change in the game was like, it's ignorable. It's like, okay, sure, whatever. It's like annoying. You'll lose your shield. But any good Ryan with any good Juno or Lucio comp behind them, good luck, brother. You better have a really good Orisa zoning him out, otherwise he will run you down with his Mei and Reaper by his side. So Ryan and Reaper and Mei, they're all like best friends right now. They all hold each other's hands and run at you. It is terrifying. At least that's what's happening in the Middle East and European servers. We're getting traumatized by these three specifically. Anyways, Roadhog. Oh boy, so Roadhog is niche bad, but in some cases is niche good. Okay, and that's where I'm gonna leave it. I think Hog is sadly one of those characters as well, where you just kind of have to keep him bad because he doesn't fit the mold of tank. And I'm happy with his awkward spot. Like, I don't ever want a Hog meta again, so I'm happy with where he is. Soldier 76, mid, not good, not bad. If there's any DPS character that genuinely needs a damage buff that isn't Genji, it's Soldier 76. They're refusing to nerf armor. Soldier's entire value gets destroyed the moment he has to interact with armor-based value. And unless they give Soldier a personal passive where he's like, doing some good damage to armor, I don't know, man. Like, Soldier's already one of the weakest DPS in the game. I don't even know. I don't know if I want to put him in niche good or mid, but I definitely think you can play him, but he's tough. Like, burst damage is the name of the game. And sadly, Soldier doesn't have that. I don't know. I might put him in niche good. Like, he has a niche. You can play him in some of those, like, more open maps like Flashpoint. You can play him in, like, Push. There's long angles. You can, like, do things. But why play him? But, like, every other hit scan's much better than him. He's the most, like, he is by far the weakest hit scan in the game. Symmetra. So, Sim. Okay, Sim is actually very good. Now, some of the meta tanks right now that are up there, especially the ones that have gained more popularity recently, have been D.Va and have also been Orisa. Symmetra is actually really not that bad against Orisa. Now, I wasn't actually that aware. I had a Symmetra main who's in top 500 educate me a lot about Symmetra, how she works and what she does, and that was actually a very enlightening experience for me, and I learned that, wow, Sim is actually really not that bad. And a lot of people just don't understand how to adjust a playstyle. So, I might talk with that Symmetra player. We might come up, like, they might help me make a guide. I might do a Symmetra guide, so if you guys might be interested in that content, let me know, because I have been playing a lot of Symmetra into Orisa, into D.Va, and my goodness, she can take over games if you know what you're doing, but you have to be really smart with how you play her and pace yourself really, really well on Symmetra, because once she enters the game, she takes over. You know how to zone people out, you know how to create opportunity of advantage with her turns. Symmetra can feel very good right now. However, I would say that she's not good in A tier. She's mid. She has her areas where she's strong, and she also just falls off against certain comps. So the mid tier is pretty much that. Good in their areas where they're good, and then against certain things and scenarios, they just kind of fall off. Although I will say, Sim is by far the queen of King of the Hill. Very strong in King of the Hill maps. Torbjorn. I don't know what kind of delusional people think they are when they think that Torbjorn has ever been bad. This character, I've been the resident hater for this character since day one, because I think people just don't understand how terribly OP he can be. Okay, and yeah, he's mid. Like, I hate to say it, like, as much as I want to throw him up here, get some delusional agenda going and get Blizzard to nerf him, at the moment, the game is a little bit more on the faster side, and very few cases will Torbjorn really move up into A, or sometimes even like a very good choice to pick. But he's mid. He's not bad. He's not good. He's aight. Like, he's definitely there. You can pop off with him. But he's just an unpopular hero. People just don't play him because there's like more other fun things to play. Although I think Torb is actually really fun when you can get going with him. Also, really underrated ultimate. Very powerful ultimate. Like, so much stuff you can do with it in terms of zoning, the kill pressure, so many things you can do. Really underrated character. Mid, but definitely not C, D, or terrible. Okay. Tracer. Tracer is good. She's not mid. She's not niche in any case or form. However, I will say that she's not S tier. I think she's in a little bit of a weird spot. The armor does mess with some of the damage that she can do. Again, armor is the thing that's moving Tracer down to A tier. So let's do it like this. If you're facing armored tanks and armored compositions, there are other characters that have some armor too, Tracer can feel awkward and drops to about A tier or sometimes even B tier. However, if you're playing against compositions that don't necessarily have armor or like a lot of sustain or AoE healing, Tracer goes right back up to the S tier. So you know what? I might just put her in S tier because I'm sure there's like that Tracer Warlord out there that just can make her work in any case and scenario. But I will say that she like, I don't know, I don't know. Like, I will put her in S tier. Let's just put her in S tier. I think Tracer is fair up here. I definitely have seen it. I've felt it in scrims. I've seen other Tracer players that are literally in top 500 explain that, yeah, you know, before I could play Tracer here, but now I can't because of this, and this. So I don't know. I'll put Tracer in meta because of the comps that she can fit into and play with, but I will say she has her moments where she drops down to A tier, but most of the time, let's say, she's an S tier pick. Widowmaker, S tier pick, legit the best hero in the game right now that Sombra has been gutted. Listen, I've been saying this on stream and in previous videos for months, right? I said that I never hated Sombra, and I understand like the low elo players and their complaints, right? I understand why they dislike Sombra. I understand where you guys are coming from. But Sombra was the #1 evil that kept Widowmaker from taking over the game. Widowmaker's pick rate has skyrocketed. Widowmaker's win rate is slowly climbing on Overbuff if you actually track it with the little features. She's very, 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 very strong right now, and Blizzard has backed themselves into a corner where they cannot avoid nerfing Widowmaker. This is it, Blizzard. You must address the Widowmaker problem once and for all. It's been 8+ years. This character is the most broken character this game has ever seen, and there are very few answers to her. And I always want to say one thing: people think that countering Widowmaker is as easy and cut and dry as they make it out to be. That, oh, pick Tracer, pick like Genji, and just go. Like, seriously, to anyone that suggests that, do you guys like actually sit there? I understand, like, I'm in a higher elo, and I understand I'm not playing in silver, right? But did you guys know that your tanks and supports can peel for the Widowmaker? Like, they actually realize that this person is our win condition, so we need to protect the Widowmaker. We need to enable the Widowmaker. Have you guys ever played against a Widowmaker comp that has tank and has the supports and the other DPS babysitting Widowmaker's sideline so you can never reach her? Trust me, it is the most oppressive shit. It's one thing to deal with Widowmaker looking down at you from across the map and one-shotting you. It's another thing when you realize that her whole team is aware that this is our win con and we must make sure nobody touches her. And it's a nightmare. Look, like I got a bit aggressive over there. I got a bit aggressive. If you took that offensively, you are that type of player that thinks that, oh, just pick this character and you counter Widowmaker. I beg of you to play in an elo that is not silver. And if this doesn't apply to you, don't take it offensively. But if you're that silver ass player that thinks that that's how easy it is to counter Widowmaker, you're actually delusional. It is really not that easy to counter Widowmaker, especially when the enemy team builds around her, plays around her, and peels for her. It is near impossible because the amount of leverage Widowmaker has is insane. I have a video dedicated to Widowmaker coming very soon, talking about her problems, talking about what we need to do to her. But one of the biggest curses that this game has ever faced is Ashe was made, because Widowmaker should have been reworked into Ashe years ago. However, there's still ways to deal with the Widowmaker problem. That's for another video. But Widowmaker, S tier pick, meta character right now. Meta means most effective tactic available, and Widowmaker right now is one of the most effective tactic available. All you need to have is good aim, and that's it. You can be a glue sniffer, and you can make Widowmaker work. Winston, good pick, very good. Meta actually, no, meta pick. He's very good. I would definitely say he can definitely outpace D.Va now. Again, one of the things about Winston is he can ignore armor, and against the current meta backlines, which is like Juno-based backlines, he does have a better time into that matchup than D.Va does, which is a little bit of what holds D.Va back. And also Winston, at least again from my tank player's experience and what he shared with me, this is mostly from his opinion and my little notes over here, is he has gone on the record to say that Winston is also able to better outpace Orisa than D.Va, at least currently at the moment. Usually it was a little bit the other way around, but Winston at the moment is not that bad. On dive maps, Winston's a monster right now, because there's not much Orisa can do in that case, and you can also just outpace D.Va and just kind of ignore her. And with the bubble, like, there's so many things like that. I could go on about it for like an hour, but you know, Winston is either meta or he's A tier, but generally speaking, on dive maps and with dive compositions, Winston's pretty damn good right now. Zarya is mid. Zarya is really good against any delusional diva player that doesn't understand how to utilize high grounds. But against the rest of the roster, she's just kind of mid. I wouldn't say she's niche. You can definitely play her, but she's just she's eh. And okay, maybe this is just me, but I kind of like it when Zarya is not that good. I personally think Zarya can be really obnoxious and annoying to play into, especially if it's a really good Zarya. And once they get charged up, it feels impossible to kill them. So I like where Zarya is. Keep it there. She can definitely be strong in some cases, and then in other cases she just gets run over by better brawl tanks and against dive comp. So I think that's fine. Keep Zarya where she is. I think in my opinion this is okay. Zenyatta, niche, good. So Zenyatta is not bad. He's not good. He just like has a very awkward place in the meta game right now. With poke comps, he's very good, but Iliari, I would also still argue, is just a little bit better because of her overall healing output in a team fight and the fact that she brings pretty much a sixth player into the lobby compared to Zen. Zen's numbers are still really low, but his overall damage potential is higher. However, even for me, I think I would take an Iliari-based poke comp than a Zenyatta-based poke comp, just because Iliari can draw out fights, and I think that's much better. Also, her ability to play make off of her ultimate is much stronger now than before because of the quality of life changes. And I think Transcendence, while it's still good, nowadays everybody's gotten so much better at baiting out Transcendence that usually like you have to be really careful where you use the trans, because if you don't, people just run you down. Also, against like what is meta, like a lot of the dive tanks just make Zen's life living hell. Like they just dive on you and it's over. Widowmaker across the map, Zen's hitbox is one of the easiest hitboxes to hit as well. So Zen, a bit of a rough spot. He's not bad. You can definitely make him work. Like I said, in the more tightly fitted maps, Zenyatta can definitely be a very good character to play. But if the maps are now opening up, if there's room for like a rush engage or a dive engage, you must reconsider. You must play Zenyatta very, very safely. So he's not bad by any means, but you have to be very careful. Because the one thing that Iliari has, the Zenyatta doesn't, is Iliari has movement. Iliari can have permanent uptime with anything that she's doing because of Pylon, right? She's either always healing, or if she's not healing, then she's doing damage. Zenyatta doesn't have that leverage, right? So that's just like my opinion on the Zen topic. If you guys want to tell me something about Zen, feel free. But I have not seen Zen, and against, like I said, against the current meta comps and shit, this is just kind of awkward in my opinion. Ana is pretty mid. I would say Ana's actually good. I would definitely say that the current state of the game, Ana's really not that bad. She's kind of coming back slowly as the game evolves and the balance punches come through. But she's not meta-defining. She's A tier. She's really, really good with Brawl and Rush. She's very good with Juno. She's very good with Juno. She actually really likes Juno. Juno gives Ana the one thing that Ana did not have, and that is that with the speed ring, if they're trying to kite, Ana gets mobility. Ana gets a speed boost. That is something that wasn't possible other than with a Lucio. But Lucio's thing is that, like, I would argue that Juno's E is a lot more forgiving to use and where you can use it than Lucio's speed boost. So, like, what I'm trying to say is Lucio's speed boost, you want to be, like, so much more careful with it. But, like, Juno's speed boost, you can use it in a scenario where, okay, I can kind of throw away this speed ring over here to just use it for an escape ability and not have to worry about the re-engage. In Lucio's case, you do have to sometimes worry about the re-engage. I hope I'm making sense here because I'm thinking about the scrims that we had, but again, I might be thinking too much into super high and stuff. But my point is, Ana's is a pretty good pick. Sombra, terrible. I think you guys have seen a lot of videos from other content creators explaining why she's horrible. She did get a hotfix buff where they brought her cooldown for the translocator down to 6 seconds. That does not solve the problem. Sombra is by far one of the worst characters in the game, right next to Mercy right now. I would even argue even worse than Mercy right now, simply because you do not tie your engagement and disengagement tool and abilities into one ability and expect them to work. That's just not how it works. Think of it like this, because I know this channel mostly has a lot of Genji fans. Imagine if anytime Genji dashed in, your deflect auto-triggered. So you never had agency to use deflect as a defensive tool. That's just horrible, right? That's horrible. So Sombra, one of the worst characters. We need to talk about her in a more in-depth video. This video is already long enough as it is, so let's try to speedrun things. Orisa is the meta. Jeez, who would have guessed that when you micro buff this shit out of a character that they would end up back at the top of the mountain? Like, why are we so obsessed with this character being good in this game? Oh, that's right, because it's extremely easily accessible and they're only ever looking at silver and gold, and if Orisa is dropping out of silver and gold, then they have to do something to bring her back. Seriously, there are just some characters, I'm sorry, I kind of slammed my desk. There's just some some characters that don't need to be good, as we've talked about Bastion and Roadhog, and sadly Orisa fits that mold as well. And the fact that she's now in meta, she's one of the most effective tanks, most effective tactic available, is a massive problem. And we need to gut this character. This character has too many things going for her that is basically like training wheels if you want to play Overwatch. Her Fortify, the spin, the javelin hitbox is massive. Like, there's so much shit that Orisa has going for her that is really annoying. When she does become viable and you have to face against that more often than not, it can feel so overwhelming. And not to mention, healing is still good in this game. It's technically net buff from where it was back in post-season 9 changes, and Orisa's thriving off of that. And it's a massive problem. So Orisa really needs to go, but sadly I hate to say she's meta. Doom is actually A tier. Doom is very good. Doom is my tank main, but I would really appreciate it if other Doom players would stop trying to push this delusionary take that Doom is bad. Listen. Just because your personal favorite Doomfist playstyle isn't meta doesn't mean the character is bad. Has Blizzard reduced Doomfist into a punch bot and promoted the most obnoxious, annoying playstyle to play against for Doomfist? Of course, that's their decision, but that doesn't mean that the hero is bad. Does he have a viable way to play the game? Yes. If you're not doing it, well, that's just a you thing at the end of the day, right? Like, if the people that are punch botting and are getting value off of punch botting and are winning with punch botting, well, what can you do, right? It is what it is. Doom is a good tank. I cannot deny it. He's not mid, he's not niche, and he's definitely not terrible. Although I will say that he's not meta. I do think a good Orisa and even a good Winston can outpace him if they know what they're doing. However, Doom is pretty damn good. You can play really well against bad Orisas. There's really good ways to where you can actually do a lot against bad Orisas, but if the Orisa is a good player, they understand how to zone you, understand how to CC you, is GG's. Like, I am thinking mostly about the tank 1v1s because everything else is just complementary, and it certainly does help that Sombra is kind of removed from the game pretty much, so Doom just kind of gets to wreak havoc. Anyways, Moira, mid, not bad, not good, mid, nothing more to say about that. I think that's fine. Brigitte is meta. Brigitte is so damn good, and Blizzard refuses to understand where her power comes from. AoE healing has been legitimately the death of the game, and the one area that they, for some strange reason, keep nerfing this character is her single target healing potential. But that is not where the power comes from, Blizzard. Their own argument was, over the course of the game, Brig's healing can get really high. Exactly, because it's tied to Inspire and her ultimate. So why don't you look at Inspire and stop making her abilities feel clunky? It makes no sense. Making characters clunkier is never fun, and the same shit is what happened to Sombra, and it could happen to Brig. Will it move Brig out of the meta in the near future? Of course, but it's not the right way to get the character out of the meta. No, I want every character to be fun, and I think there's better ways to nerf Brigitte, which is finally addressing her AoE healing problem, but they never want to do it, so they're just going to make every part of Brigitte's kit feel incredibly clunky until she drops down into C tier. So, for now, enjoy Brigitte. She's really damn good into Diva. If you're smart, you can actually play her really well into Orisa, into Winston, and yeah, like, she's pretty damn good. Also, the nerfs to Ram allowed her to actually be a pretty decent pick into Ram. There's a way to play Brigitte into new Ram, and it's actually very damn good. Wrecking Ball, niche, good. You have to basically be a superstar player on Wrecking Ball to make him worthwhile. Otherwise, he drops to niche bad. I don't want to talk about Wrecking Ball that much. I personally don't like this character at all. I think this is an extremely flawed character design. I think from a gameplay perspective, he's super unique and fun, but I cannot deny that this is the most overwhelming tank, at least for me, to play against. So if he's just in a spot where if you're good at him, you can make him work, great. Because there's a lot of people that are just shit at him, and ranked for those players is practicing Wrecking Ball and how to feed on the character. So get out of my games, stop doing that. Learn in quick play, try to get better over there, but please stop using ranked as a let me practice my Wrecking Ball. Ashe, A tier, or even honestly right now S tier. I think, like, I would argue that Ashe is S tier. She's very strong. The extra, there's so many things I could say about Ashe. Very few cases I would say she drops into A tier. I will say that Diva kind of losing power has allowed Ashe to take over the game a little bit more as well. Because poke comms are a little bit on the rise because of God knows which tank is back that's allowing that to happen. With the Orisa in the game, Ashe really likes having Orisa as a tank partner. She does a great job of following up on Ashe's shots. Ashe can complement her javelin throws as well, and a lot of other synergy with like the backline that gets played in those comps. Ashe, I would actually argue, is S tier. Maybe if Poke loses some power, Ashe drops to A tier. But yes, I would... Sorry for the sirens outside. But I would argue that Ashe is actually S tier right now. Baptiste. Okay, whoever made the Baptiste changes... I genuinely need you to understand. Have you ever played a shooter? I know I'm ranting about this, right? But what the hell excuse was, oh, you know, if you play Baptiste for too long, it becomes a fatigue to control the aim. This is a shooter game. So remove the recoil from like half the other characters that have the recoil, like Soldier 76. Remove his recoil. Blizzard, I personally find it really tiring having to pull down on my mouse all the time playing Soldier. It's very, very tiring. Like, what kind of change was that? And that was the one thing that balanced out Baptiste's damage. Now his damage numbers have been noticing in the game. I don't know if you guys are playing against him. We're playing against him a lot in scrims. And bro, if you're playing oh my god, you have a bazooka in your hand now, and it just everybody down. It is so insane how Baptiste needed nerfs and he's been buffed. I just want to pretend that didn't happen. I just want to pretend that didn't happen. But Bap is an S tier pick right now for obvious reasons. Sigma's mid. I don't want to talk about it. Sigma gets run over by Brawl, Rush, and Dive. He's good in poke comps, but I would even argue that unless you're on a Widowmaker map and you know Widow's going to appear, Orisa is actually taking over as the better poke tank. But again, on the Widow maps, that's when immediately you have no choice but to play Sigma. So he then goes straight into meta. But outside of that, Orisa is the better poke tank. In my opinion, of course, and experience. Okay, so Echo. Echo's good. Echo's actually pretty damn good. She, like... Echo's such an awkward character. So Echo's not mid, I would definitely say that. She has good and bad matchups in the game. If you know how to stage yourself against a target that you need to duel, especially if said target counters you, let's say Ashe or Cassidy, and you know how to approach them, and the map isn't that like wide and long sightlined, you can make Echo work in a lot of cases, but you need a lot of resources from your support. Echo just feels like Genji, where you need a lot of resources from support and your tank to follow up to keep enabling you, and you can do really, really well. You just can't like be lobby admin on Echo. Just the better DPS characters are just too good at shutting you down. However, if you have momentum on your side and they're struggling to set up, Echo just takes over the game immediately. So Echo, very good character. I don't think she's as bad as some people may say she is. Sojourn is extremely awkward. I might be one of the very few people that still think Sojourn, needs a lot of... I just call her Vivian. Like, it's so hard to just say Soldier. Okay, so Vivian is, like... I really just want to say she's niche. She's suffering from the same problem as Soldier, where the new armor has completely thrown her out of the game. And then if you run into D.Va, it's even worse. Her ability to fight and have that damage uptime against, like, tank is the name of the game. Most of the time, you're going to be having to be forced to deal with tank because of the state of the game right now. And Vivian just does not like that. She just really can't take those fights. Like, it takes too long for her to do any meaningful damage against some of the stronger tanks right now. And she just gets mowed down. She's so easy to dive as well. Yeah, she has a mobility, but there's so many like things you can do to bait that out. Once that mobility is out and you just dive on her, it's legit over. You rush on her, you Juno speed boost, you do this. There's nothing she can do about it. So I did like the way that they are buffing her. They're not wanting to give her the one-shot back, but I think there's a way we can help Sojourn. Again, Sojourn might get a separate dedicated video, so I might just save it for that. Junker Queen. I've been seeing a lot of interesting takes on Junker Queen. People are like, actually, Junker Queen is actually very strong, and if the meta tanks get nerfed, then Junker Queen will take over. I don't know about that. I personally think armor is still way too damn strong, and Queen is not that strong into armored tanks, and, like... She just, like, the problem is if you play Junker Queen and they play, like, just Rein and Kiriko, there's nothing you can do as Queen. Rein's ability to stay alive, out-pressure you, out-damage you, albeit much easier than the Junker Queen player, just puts her in control. But I will say that she has felt much better in the current season, so I'm not going to put her in A or S. I think she's mid. She's definitely not niche or bad. Like, you can play her, but she just gets so easily shut down. She's a character that relies so much on negative status effects, and nowadays, with Kiriko pretty much, like, being played so much, it's just, like, it's so hard. Like, oh, you're playing Junker Queen? Okay, we'll just play Kiriko, and, like, now your entire value is gone that you should get over time, right? Especially your ultimate, like, Queen's only window of big playmaking opportunity to open up a fight is her ult, and it's so mind-numbingly easy for Kiriko to shut that down. Speaking of Kiriko, I will argue and say, actually, you know what? Now she's S tier right now. In the current state of the game, 𝐒𝐿 fits in really well with Lucio and Juno. She works really well with them. The rework that they gave so that her body shots can do more damage is actually really damn good. She does have a fatter kunai compared to before as well. So 𝐒𝐿's not that bad. Still one of the best duelists in the game. If you know what you're doing on 𝐒𝐿, you can easily, I wouldn't say hard carry games, but definitely have an impact on the game. I don't think her win rate necessarily reflects her impact on the game, because the problem with 𝐒𝐿 is because she has such a high pick rate even down in low elo, and people in low elo don't understand how to really get full max value from 𝐒𝐿. I would say that influences her win rate a lot more, but I would definitely say 𝐒𝐿 is in the meta right now. Maybe previous season I wouldn't agree to that and put her down to A, but I would say right now she's actually one of the strongest supports, definitely one of the strongest supports to play. Ramatha's in a very awkward spot. I have a massive rant video coming for Ram. I don't know. Like, I've seen the arguments for both sides where, oh no, the changes were good. I've seen the arguments where, no, the changes are bad. Honestly, I just need more time on Ram, but I will say he just feels really, really mid. It's weird because now, at least to me, it feels like Reinhardt counters Ram. Like, we're really in a world where Ryan counters Ram. When it was supposed to be the other way around, they marketed Ramatha as being the tank to get through barriers, and now they just kind of walk back on it. So, yet another hero that lost their identity. But it's just crazy to me how we just decide who gets to keep an identity and then who doesn't. 𝐓𝐈𝐈, I want to say he's niche. I don't think he's mid or good. Before, I've always argued that 𝐓𝐈𝐈's been an A-tier pick, and there's been reasons for that. Because with a pretty good coordinated team in basically pubs or even quick play and shit like that, you can make the 𝐓𝐈𝐈 work. But in general, I think 𝐓𝐈𝐈's in a spot where he's niche, he's good, but he just doesn't have enough to help him feel good. And if we're adamant about approaching this character and not changing his kit, I would say that to his petal, what we could do that could be a little bit more interesting is if 𝐓𝐈𝐈 stands on his petal and the petal goes up, it does like a rain, like a little rain, that if people stand under that rain, they could get like a benefit where, you know, they're getting more healing. They could get a benefit that people under that petal, like, you know, you could kind of come up with like some buff or debuff. So, you know, 𝐓𝐈𝐈 has a little bit more going for him. He has too many disadvantages that really don't help his case. You could certainly play him. It's like, you can certainly play him up until a certain point, but my personal advice is, if you are in Masters Plus, don't play 𝐓𝐈𝐈, dude. Like, you are unironically throwing the game. In a world right now where Juno and company has taken over the game, it's not good for you. If the compositions are slower comps, if you're playing like the typical brawl, no speed boost, no shit like that, a bit of a poke comp here and there, you know, the slower paced Overwatch, you could definitely play 𝐓𝐈𝐈 there, but do not try to make 𝐓𝐈𝐈 work in the faster paced Overwatch games. It's not going to work out in your favor. 𝐒𝐿𝐈 is actually pretty damn good right now. I don't think she's bad. I don't think she's meta. I think she has maps in places where she comes alive. She complements Widowmaker a lot. She can peel for Widowmaker really well. She's just so oppressive in the scenarios where she wants to be oppressive. I love 𝐒𝐿𝐈, but I don't like it when 𝐒𝐿𝐈's like most effective playstyle is the boring sit around and kind of do this. I like it when she's a lot more intuitive. She has to go out there and kind of earn her stripes. I've suggested my changes for 𝐒𝐿𝐈 before as well. I think the perma pylon uptime needs to go. Put power back into her weapon where she can heal more with her right click. She can okay, maybe the damage is fine on her left click. So, you know, the player input is more important rather than the automatic healing. That's what I would like for 𝐒𝐿𝐈. Otherwise, I think 𝐒𝐿𝐈 is really, really very well designed hero. It's only pylon that truly holds her back. So 𝐒𝐿𝐈, she's okay. I like her. I like where she is. She's my favorite new Overwatch character. I just hate pylon personally. Mauga is Mauga is very awkward. There's cases where Mauga will feel like he's really good, and then there's cases where Mauga feels like he's really shit. Now, he's very good into Ram and Hog. Like, he's a character that no matter how much they try to change to be better against the squishy matchups, it's just never going to happen because his weapons are just not designed to do that no matter what they do. But against Roadhog, Ram, and if your team can burst down the shields really quickly, then even Ram can be really good. But, Mauga can be really good. But I will say he is niche. And in that niche, he's pretty damn good. And I think that's okay. I don't think we need to do more for the big guy. I like Mauga. But I just think he's too obnoxious and he's too simple and he does too much for the most bare minimum input. So being in a niche good is the most healthiest that it can be. I would rather take Mauga than Roadhog moving up. In that, but that's just my opinion because I think it's really easy to deal with Mauga now because I think the player base as a whole has gotten accustomed to, okay, he's using the cardiac arrest, sorry, overdrive, and once the overdrive goes down, we can just burst him down. So people have gotten better at that, and then Mauga players themselves have understood the importance of using their E smarter. So I think, Mauga is definitely one of those characters where he's niche, but he's not one of those characters that you can genuinely play everywhere, right? Venture's mid. I think Venture was really good in the last patch, but now as the seasons have progressed, I'm terribly sorry about that, but I think they are a little bit up and down. I think it depends on the map. I think it depends on the comp. But overall, I would say Venture is mid. I still really like this character. I think it's one of the most fun characters they ever made. Been playing a lot of Venture lately, actually. And I think they are very, very fun to play. And if you like, honestly, you can fit Venture into a lot of comps. Like, that's what I like about them, is you can fit them into poke, you can fit them into brawl, into dive, and you can make it work. Right? There's very few cases, like a good Cassidy that knows how to E you, that can feel really oppressive. A good Pharah that knows how to zone you out, a good Echo, and sometimes even a Junkrat that knows how to place the traps and everything. So Venture mid. I wouldn't say that they are good or niche, but they're mid. Like, you can make them work. Juno is S tier, nerfed in the worst ways possible. And I don't like her nerfs. I don't like what the nerfs force her to do. The problem is Juno is still strong in the areas that she is strong in. Her AoE healing impact from the rockets is very good. She can effectively draw out fights. And the biggest issue on Juno is her ultimate by far. The problem with Juno's ultimate is it charges so quick, and rather than addressing her ultimate or the strength of the ultimate, even if she has a fast charging out, it's okay. She can have a fast charging out, but maybe we can tone down the healing. Maybe we can tone down the damage boost. Maybe we can speed up the ultimate so it finishes faster. I don't know. We did that to Hanzo, right? So his ultimate is just faster. Anyways, so Juno is still very damn good. I don't think they addressed Juno in the way that they should have. And I think we're going to be stuck in this meta for a while unless we aggressively patch the game, because they've been softly approaching the game, and that's just not going to change the state of the game. Characters are kind of going up and down from A and B, but the meta right now is like a little bit like this. Again, most of my experience is scrims and EU Masters Plus ladder, and also a lot of Middle East ladder, and I know Middle East games can be a little bit here and there. So to my friends that are in the different servers, in the Asian servers, playing in the American servers, let me know what your experience is. What do you disagree with? Let's keep it respectful. Let's discuss this in a healthy manner. I know I threw some shade to the lower elo players, but you guys in the lower elo side of things also have to understand is like, you're in the part and process of the game where you're learning to get better, and as you get better, the things that are supposed to be easier to fight against will get easier. So I kind of hope that's understood, okay? Anyways, with that being said, somber video coming very soon, maybe tonight as a double upload. If not, definitely by tomorrow. Again, I'm legit setting up the entire PC again. Everything is a little bit scuffed. This video is probably a little bit scuffed. There was some background noise. Terribly sorry about that, but so appreciative to you guys for being supportive as always. With that being said, see you in the next one.